You know, now that I think about it, I've been playing guitar seriously since 1999, let's say, at least putting effort into it. It's 25 years, and yeah, I know I should be a lot better. But I've never owned a real amp. I mean, that's not entirely true. There was a time in the early 2000s, early to mid 2000, like 2005, 2006, 2007, when I played bass in a hardcore band. I had an Ampeg with an all-tube preamp section. So that's something. But as far as guitars go, I have not owned a tube guitar amp. Yeah, I've been using modelers since the beginning. And it was mainly because I was poor, dude. Like, I had kids too early. I had kids unplanned, how about that? And I was not in a position to, I mean, let alone make it in life on my own. So now I had a kid, and then 2 kids. I was going to school and working, and I didn't have extra money to buy amps. And I feel like, at least back then, this is the memory I have, anytime I would go back and look for an amp, we're talking $1,000. I should look that up. But I feel like, the point I'm trying to make is I feel like amps were just outside of something I could ever afford. And early on, I didn't ever anticipate playing live. Now, like I said, when I joined a band and played bass, I bought myself what I thought at the time was a nice Ampeg, and I played the shit out of it, and I enjoyed it when it worked. Those of you who know, you know. So I just use modelers. I remember the first thing me and my best friends would record music with was a DOD multi-effects pedal. And I know for a fact that thing sounded like poopy, but we made the best of it. And we were, as far as I'm concerned, we were in uncharted territory. Recording on a PC back in the 2000s with a Sound Blaster card, there wasn't really a market for home recording or anything to record music at home at the time. So because of limited access to real things and financial limitations, I stuck with modelers. After the DOD pedal I had, I think I ended up getting, I had a Crate 2x12 combo amp that I used with some pedals and that DOD pedal into the Crate. Ooh boy, that probably sounded like shit. And then I ended up getting a POD HD 500X. This was after a few years I had been playing, and I looked at it as an investment. I think it was like $400 or $500 at the time, which was like insanely expensive for me. But my head was like, hey man, there are a ton of amps in this thing. There are heavy amps, there are clean amps, there are speakers, there are effects, and it's all right inside of this. And they sound pretty good. And we can debate until the cows come home on whether or not that statement is true or not. But for the time, that shit sounded awesome. And I was digging it. And the rest, as they say, is history. I just stuck with modelers, and I really, really, really enjoyed them. And you guys who follow me, you know, these days I'm a Helix guy. And that's kind of how I even got anybody to even pay attention to me here on YouTube, is being a Helix guy. So I've had a Helix, or at least in some shape or form, since maybe like maybe a year after it came out. It might not even have been a year. Anyhow, I've had it for the duration. And over the last couple months, as I have been preparing to record guitars with Modern Witchcraft, I've been going through different amps. I've been going through different impulse responses. I've been going through different speakers inside of Helix, different microphones. I've been on a hunt. I've been tone searching just to make sure that the presets that I have built for the band are still something that I think is going to kind of work with the new songs that we've written, something that's going to fit in the context of this album. And I've come up with some new tones, and we've talked about them, and a few of them use the archetype lead, which is a model of a PRS Archon, 100 watt. And I've kind of really been digging it. It might end up in some of my tones for the album. It might not. I might just settle on the badunk again. Who the fuck knows? You know, we can't get too far away from those things that make us comfortable. But then I got to thinking, I wonder what a real amp would sound like. I wonder what my playing through a real amp would sound like. And luckily enough, I have built a relationship with the fine folks over at Zounds, so I got a hold of them and said, hey, can I borrow this amp? So here we are. I ended up borrowing the PRS Archon MKII. It's a 50 watt 2-channel amp. No, this is not an apples to apples comparison between this amp and the Archon that's in the Helix. The version in the Helix, I believe, is the 100 watt variant of the original Archon. So as we dive into that comparison, keep that in mind. I know they're not the same amp. Okay, I get it. So whether or not, in your opinion, those differences nullify this comparison, fine. For me, this comparison was A, can I dial in a real amp? B, how quickly or easily can I dial in a real amp? And 3, or C, I don't remember what I said. Am I personally, is Nick Hill personally missing anything because he's not playing real amps? Now don't you worry, you fucking nerds. I will happily share the conclusion that I came to once we kind of walk through the presentation I put together. So this is the PRS Archon MKII 50 watt head. It's a 2-channel amp. It has a clean and a lead channel. And I have kind of dialed in a tone that I dig, that I would, it sounds like me, I think. What I did is I ran the Helix Floor into the front of this so that I could use, I could decide what overdrive pedal to use. So it's going from the Helix Floor into the front end of the amp. It's going through the amp into the Boss Witchcraft tube amp expander core. This thing takes the load of the amp, sexy, and makes it so you can either power a speaker at a lower volume, but what we are using it for is to send out the signal that is going into my audio interface. Now, since this is not necessarily a video on the tube amp expander core, we're not going to really dive into it, but what you can do is hook this up via Bluetooth if you buy the not included Bluetooth module to plug into this thing. You can either hook up to an amp via Bluetooth, or you can hook up to an iPad or a phone or a laptop via USB-C, as long as you install the correct drivers and the Waza tube amp expander editor. What I did in the editor is I loaded up the IR that I use for both of these presets. I use the same IR for this tone that I use in the Helix tone that I created. It's an OwnHammer Impulse. It's an orange 4x12. I will leave details down below as to which specific Impulse it is and where you can get it and all that. So again, we're using the same Impulse that we created for this tone, as well as the tone I created fully inside of the Helix, or in this case, the HX Stomp. Same thing, Helix, HX Stomp, same thing. We're using the same cab, okay? So what we have coming up, and it's long, all right? I'm not gonna even act like it isn't long. I played 3 chunks of one of my Detra Cortina songs. I did this because A, I want you to hear my music. B, it goes through 3 different kinds of riffs, and I wanted you to hear how chords sounded, power chords, palm mutes, staccato, single note lines. I wanted to kind of play a few different riffs, so I'm sorry, it's a little long. So the way I went about this is for each tone, I recorded the first 3 riffs of this song. You'll hear for each tone, the Helix and the amp. I'm not gonna identify them right away. you'll hear the song in the context of the mix, you'll hear the guitar soloed, then you'll hear guitars in the context of a mix, the guitar soloed, and then I have, in the context of a mix, it's bouncing back and forth between both options, and then after that, I have the soloed guitars, again, bouncing back and forth between both options, so you can kind of hear how things sound back and forth. It's gonna be a little bit of a long clip, but that's how I would want to hear it. So be prepared to listen to 5 minutes of kind of the same thing over and over. I love you guys. Sorry. So now to me, the character is there in both of the tones. I feel like I was able to dial in a better tone with the Helix, and that shouldn't come as a surprise, and it might not be fair. because I feel I've gotten pretty good at dialing in tones on the Helix. It took me quite a while to dial in the tone on the amp, and I even created a tone that I thought I liked, recorded it, went back, dialed in a tone on the Helix that I thought sounded better, went back to the amp, tweaked some things to try and get it closer. Now, we have options available to us on the Helix that we don't have available to us on these amps. Well, we might. I know there are ports in the back to bias the tubes, but your boy's not going to do any of that because A, this is a loaner, and B, I don't know what I'm doing. What I can do on Helix, as you guys all know, is we have options for bias and bias X. I know bias X might not be a real thing in amps, but it's a way to control some of the parameters, and it's a way to control how the amp reacts to your playing and to certain notes and to certain pickups. So being able to dial in things like bias and bias X and sag and hum, it gives you more flexibility than is fair in a comparison like this. So what's the point? I think for me, the curiosity, like I said at the beginning, am I missing anything by not playing real amps? And what I can say is it's definitely cool and it's definitely fun, and you can definitely feel yourself playing. It feels a little different. The low end is interesting and it's different, and I don't necessarily know how to articulate it, and I'm not going to just throw out a bunch of bullshit buzzwords. But I feel like in order to get the high end that I was able to get out of the model inside a Helix, and again, I'm acknowledging that's a Mark I 100 watt variant that they modeled inside a Helix. There's a difference, I understand that. Maybe there's more headroom. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not an electrical engineer. But for me to get the high end and the tight low end that I like from the tones I'm able to create inside a Helix, I found it difficult to do that with the real amp. Now I messed around using the Tube Screamer, the TS-808 inside of the Helix, and the Precision Drive inside of the Helix. Initially, I was using the Precision Drive because I was able to tighten up that low end, but I feel like it lost a lot of the balls. So I was making moves to kind of compensate. And what I ended up finding, and I know a lot of you guys already know this, and I did know this, but when you turn up the mid and the high and the low, there is an added layer of saturation that comes along with that I don't know necessarily translates or happens in the same way inside a Helix. And in my opinion, it's an advantage for the Helix. Getting back to the point, I have confirmed to at least myself that I don't think I'm missing anything with amps. That amps are fucking cool and they have their place, and I would love to have a rack with a few amps so that I could mess around here in the studio. But as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to creating unique tones in a box for a particular part of a song that inspires me to write a particular part of a song, and I can do it all right then and there, all right on either HX Edit or on the hardware itself, it just kind of solidified that I'm cool with modelers, and I'm fine being in this world. And I love that there are still amps that we can still try and learn from and experiment with. I think that'll always be a thing. It's of my personal opinion that the whole debate as to which sounds better, which is better, how one feels or sounds over the other, like I feel like that argument is just a waste of bullshit semantics. You're getting caught up in things that don't fucking matter. I mean, they do matter, of course, but like at this point, in the context of a mix, there's a lot of people who will disingenuously say that they were able to tell right away which was which. And I think most of those people are liars, quite honestly. I think you know what you're talking about, but I don't fully believe that at this stage, in a blind test, most people could identify what's a modeler and what's a real amp. But that's fucking great for us as musicians. So all you amp daddies and amp mommies who want to lug your amps around, break a leg, break a back, go for it. I am so happy that I'm in the world of modelers, and I don't see that changing. Now, I might want to get my hands on more amps and play with them, because that's fun. At this point, I don't know what else to say. This was a curiosity for me. I know this is definitely outside of my realm of expertise. I invite you to courteously share your anecdotes down in the comments section, and, you know, maybe tell me your journey. I did, as I've reflected on everything, I did find it kind of amazing that this is the real first amp I've played and dialed in for myself after all these years. So definitely naive. Just take this whole video with a grain of salt. Who the fuck cares? This is my experience. I thought I'd share it, and maybe some of you might get something out of it. So, and now we are at the stage where I famously ramble because I didn't coherently think of an end for this video. So we're just gonna end it here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I know this was probably a long one. I'm making videos for me, baby. So if you like it, cool. If not, that's cool. Move along. I understand. It's all good. I may do a follow-up video for the load box that I also borrowed from the fine people at Sounds so that I could pull this off. But don't hold your breath. I'm not sure that load box videos are something that anybody needs from me. We'll see. We'll see. The interface I found interesting, dialing in and setting things up to put the impulse in there. Interesting to say the least. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Anyways, guys, let's wrap up this incoherent rambling. Be good to yourself, take care of others, and we'll see you in the next one.